Hey everyone, welcome to the Growth Mind podcast. Today, I'm super excited to be here with Justin McClure. Justin's an amazing human. He has over 10 years of experience in the design and marketing space. He's worked with some of the top brands across the country and is now trying to bring that same caliber of quality to small businesses. So, without further ado, welcome, Justin. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your time and super excited about this conversation.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Matthew. I'm excited for what you're doing and the platform that you have in helping the young people kind of get exposed to a lot of great insights and ideas and direction. I think, this younger generation is really what's going to impact our futures. And so the more that we can expose them, help them to great ideas and thinking and just experiences, I think it will be of great value. So, of course, excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, it's just I know we've had conversations before. You've even helped me with my business before. And yeah, just one thing that I've always appreciated about you is like the quality of work that you bring to the table, but just you care. Like it's not just like you're doing it for the buck, you're doing it because this is something that you truly care about. And it's like you've just and we'll get into this further. I know we'll probably have this conversation, but it's just like for me, I just have so much respect for you for having that experience at such a high caliber with working with these big brands on various different projects, but then wanting to bring that same quality to small businesses. So I guess just to get started, for this podcast, we're going to be focused more on like the design and the marketing space. But yeah, I guess just kind of getting started, do you want to, if you can just give us a little bit of insight into your background, who you are, like what are some of the things you've done over the past decade? And yeah, we can get right.
Yeah, happy to do so. I've been an artist and a designer, my whole life. Started out traditionally with, picking up some pencils and some paint that I would get every year and some canvases and just really exploring the creative side of myself and always found a love for that and kind of visually storytelling is really how I put it. And when I was about 16, I got exposed to Photoshop for the first time. My grandfather had a disc of Photoshop Element 7 to be specific. And I asked my father, I'm like, what is this? And he goes, oh, that's Photoshop. Your grandfather got it for us and nobody uses it. And what I found out was you can do art digitally, and I just fell in love. I started teaching myself. I joke that I got a degree from YouTube University because I just spent hundreds and thousands of hours on YouTube teaching myself how to digitally create art. And at the age of 16, I looked up, is there a career in digital art? And the term graphic design popped up. And instantly I knew that's it. That's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. And so I say that to go, I committed myself to a very clear purpose at the age of 16. And I just dove all in, both feet in all the way. And I started teaching myself a lot of things that you don't typically learn until later down in your career. And so by the time I got to college pursuing a degree in design and marketing, I was head and shoulders above a lot of my classmates because I'd already basically put a whole foundation before even reaching college, and I just excelled there as well. And college really exposed me a lot of other ideas and principles and stuff like that, and connections and people and relationships. But really, since that point in time of being 16, I just threw myself into how do I help people? Because I grew up in a very impoverished childhood with a lot of struggles. At one point, me and my single mother was and my siblings, we were homeless, bouncing from couch to couch, house to house, literally just having a bag of clothes. And I say that because when you have the experiences of just like the struggles of life, you really learn to have a different mindset or view and really perspective on things. And so what I found out was like this deep desire to help other people who are struggling, right? And that's like my primary ethos in life is just from a personal level to help people because I was in that position of needing help and at rock bottom as a child, being, taken advantage of, abused, going from house to house and stuff like that. But then discovering this amazing tool of design and specifically like digital design, what I found was like, oh, I can actually marry the two passions of mine, one to help people, but then two, use design as the way or the vehicle of helping people. And that's when that clicked. My life really just took a very clear and direct path of going, I'm not going to turn left or I'm not going to turn right. Every decision I make is really going to be within the confines of this path or this vision and this purpose that I believe that I have, kind of discovered for myself. And because I was discouraged from pursuing a degree in art, I was literally told to my face that I'm going to end up just flipping burgers at like McDonald's or something because, oh, the art degree, it's not going to pay for anything. You can't make a career out of it. And I was just so resolute believing in, no, I believe that this is what not only what I'm called to do, but that I can actually make a great impact at it. And that really drove me to then start helping, even at 17 years old, helping my local high schools, the sports programs. Hey, do you need t-shirt designs for the baseball team and designing pamphlets and designing or logos for the football team and or there's local charities or schools that were needing just some design help, and of course I was doing it for free, but it was teaching me a lot of just being in it. It wasn't just school, principles. It was actually putting me in positions to apply what I kind of at least knew at that point of being 16, 17 years old. And from that point, I've always had a heart for using this skill of design to help people as best as I can. Now, I've been mightily blessed with some amazing opportunities of work, both in the private sector and then working for like just a design agency in downtown Seattle, doing some really cool stuff. But then working for the government at one point, that was awesome. Then just through connections and opportunities, being the art director and creative director of professional sports teams was just incredible, like a dream come true. And then ended up working on these multi-million-dollar brand campaigns and activations, and really just exposing me to some very high-level activities and principles and campaigns and behind the scenes and all of that. But then again, at the back of my mind, I was like, but the desire and the start of everything is just to help my type of people, in the sense of the people who are just like, they don't have a lot of money, they didn't come from money, and yet I'm giving a lot of my time and resources at this point, 10 years later, to these big brands, which is great, which is awesome. I don't want to take away from that, but I was starting to feel like, but there's still a lot of people who 8 out of 10 small businesses shut down. And so I was going, okay, how can I start to give more back to these people genuinely and helping them? Okay, the same principles and insights and strategies that these multi-million-dollar brands use, how can I make those insights accessible to the small business shop owner who is struggling to pay their rent or their employees? How can I bring that same insight so that they can benefit from it and they can actually grow and compete against a lot of the larger companies that are coming in and buying up a lot of. I was really sad. I did some work for a local brewery back in college. And, it was like a local, just privately owned business, a brewery, and they ended up, because of COVID, really struggling with their finances. And they just got bought out by this large conglomerate, this big entity. And then they ended up being shut down because of it. And that made me really sad because the small business owners, like, that's the American dream, is having your own business and not only running it for you, but also your family as well. So really, my ethos is really trying to combine this desire to help people with just using design as the vehicle, right? And to visually problem solve to help people have greater and more effective strategies, whether it be business plans and your proposals and all this stuff, or whether it comes to your visual identities, whether it be branding, marketing, or websites. And so it's really been a joy and a blessing to be able to really make a career out of this, of your art and design. And I'm here as a testament to say that you truly can make a career out of it if you really commit yourself to it and you have a clear path and vision for what you want to accomplish in this industry. Then you really can set yourself apart and make a big impact, because more and more today, that's what's separating businesses right now is how they market, how they present themselves and communicate themselves from a visual branding standpoint. And so I think my career, my industry is ever more important right now. So we actually need more people coming into this industry and letting the creativity flourish and an environment for it to flourish, instead of just going, no, that's for the just the whimsical kind of out there people. It's like, no, I'm a very analytical person. Like I'm very, structured and routine, but I just use design as just a vehicle and as a tool to really impact and influence people.
Yeah, and I think one thing that you had said that is just kind of a crazy statement is like, oh, like this art degree, you're gonna be flipping burgers before you know it, right? It's like where like in today's world and the space that we're in, graphic design and digital design is more important than ever. Like we're
Yep.
our entire essentially right now, like a majority of our lives is spent on the internet and spent online, and
Yeah.
whether it's through work, whether it's through social media, entertainment, like whatever it may be. So it's like, it's obviously that person didn't have the vision to see like, hey, this is all that's going to be happening in the future, but right, it's like such an important skill nowadays. One thing
Yeah.
I was curious about when you were talking like real early on in your like when you were like 16 and had just come across, or maybe it was even earlier, but like I think it was 16, like just coming
Yep.
across Photoshop. Do you think that like that exposure was key to where you're at now, or do you think that like of course like that is like that's a beautiful piece of a story, right? But do you think
Yeah.
that eventually down the road, even if you weren't exposed at 16, that you would have ended up like at the age of 18 ended up coming across this graphic design opportunity or this digital design opportunity, be like, whoa, I can just pour out creativity and explore this
Yeah.
space. I'm just yeah.
100%. I believe that experience and that exposure, you can almost think about it like, stacked dominoes, to where you can trace it back to that first domino that started the whole chain of reaction to where it kind of leads to where I am today. And that's kind of both the beautiful thing and the scary thing about life, because you can always look back and go, what if that didn't happen? Or what if that thing did happen? And there's a lot of people chalk it up to luck, of like, oh, if this one thing didn't happen in my life, I'd be in a completely different place and stuff like that, and it's one of those things that I can look back and look at that moment going, if I wasn't exposed. Now it's hard to speculate where I would be today, and maybe in some way, shape, or form, God would have introduced something else to me. But, I look at that and go, because I was introduced to Photoshop at that age, and really in high school, I had a lot of time and availability to just explore. I didn't have the responsibilities of life and family and all of that as you're an adult. So as a teenager, I just spent all my time and availability just exploring, right? And that exploration is what led me down that path of pursuing ultimately what college I went to, because by the time I got to choosing, I was 18 and graduated from college. I had 2 years of really exploring this field, and not only exploring this field, but having a kind of quote unquote a resume of presenting to colleges for scholarships. So I got quite a number of scholarships at the college I went to because of the work that I had to show for
Yeah,
in
you already had a
art.
portfolio.
Yeah, I had a portfolio already, and so that got me scholarships. And so if I didn't pick up Photoshop, if I didn't find it, then who knows what would have happened. I think I may have tried to explore some sort of creative field, but maybe I would have gone into photography or videography or something like that, animation, stuff like that. I don't know, but I do know that that experience was pivotal in kind of defining the direction that I went, because again, it was just like it clicked when I didn't even know the term graphic design at the time. It just, when I searched digital art careers because of what I had found out through Photoshop, that is then what directed me towards the path of, oh, I'm specifically going to now look at colleges that have a graphic design degree. And if they don't have a degree in graphic design, I'm not going to that college. And so that really helped me define what college I went to, and then what defining what colleges have the better programs or the best design programs, and all of that. And then that again, once I got the degree, and then through connections of people, getting my first job, and it really, that was a very pivotal point. And I don't know where I would be if I didn't come across. But I'm thankful that my grandfather, for some reason, I don't even know why, bought my family Photoshop, the CD. It wasn't even a subscription at that point. You bought physical CDs at that time. I'm sure a lot of young people might not even recognize what a CD is in 10 years, but it was definitely pivotal.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's yeah, that's incredible. And it's like, I don't know, I guess like because my thought too is like I feel like a lot of what you were talking about is this like it's curiosity, right? It's
Yes.
like it's like you Photoshop. Oh, what's this? Oh, like I can explore art here, and then right, like you just kept on like building on that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's like right, like I guess another thing that I think about is like, probably a lot of people are having those aha moments or those points of exposure that could be completely pivotal to their life, but also I'm wondering like maybe are they overlooking it or not focusing on it at that time? Maybe it is something that could be a total game changing opportunity for them, but they're maybe like the curiosity is not there yet, or maybe it just didn't impact them or like leave the impression. But yeah, no, it's like it's incredible, and it's to me, yeah, just like one thing that you had talked about is like the fact that I mean, shoot, most people are having their portfolio by the time they're done with college, and you had your portfolio by the time, or I mean, right, you probably had a better portfolio by the time you're done with college, but you had a portfolio in itself by high school. Like that's
Yeah.
just crazy, and it's like it just I don't know, like when you think about it, it's like I wish like right like that's the kind of stuff that we need more of in this country. Like we need more of in the youth, like just realizing like, hey, we can take like I can independently act on these things and do these things and create and display the work that I'm doing right at an earlier age, because like then it's like right now like when like that story and like others, right, it's like it's that's like very unique and special, right? But it's like
Yeah.
I do think kids like realizing like, hey, I'm capable of doing these things, I can act and like take these steps and get there. And to
Yeah.
me, it doesn't matter if you're in high school. It doesn't matter if you're in college. It doesn't even matter if you're years into a career. Like you can start doing that independent work and building that portfolio or working on the skills or whatever at any point. And
Yep.
it's just like, yeah. So, I mean, I guess like, I don't know, I guess I'm maybe making this a little directional, but it's like when, it's like, when it comes to like I guess like the way that I'm thinking about it is like with like high schoolers, with maybe with people that are going into college or in college or out of college, it's like how do you create opportunity for yourself if you're trying to navigate the space and like navigate the design world? Like from what I'm hearing from you, it's like build your portfolio, build these skills, start learning, start just doing work in the space. But I guess
Yep.
if you were to, it's like I guess, if you were to go back to your high school self or your college self, like how would you navigate the space now to create opportunities for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, the availability to explore this industry and space is that much more available right now. And what I mean by that is when I was 16, so this was, 14 years ago, giving away my age here. 14 years ago, there was Canva wasn't a thing. These free design softwares weren't a thing. It was Photo or Adobe really was now there were other programs, but just not as popular. And really, you had to pay for them. Again, my grandfather paid for Photoshop's Element 7 at that time. I don't know what the price would have been at that time, but it was the availability to get even explore that field was very narrow. And so I feel very blessed and lucky that I was able to be exposed to this program, one, but this industry as a whole of digital design at the age of 16. Whereas I don't think most people would even be exposed to something like that until much later in life. But not only that, with all these free programs right now, and like what I mentioned, Canva, you can actually start exploring at the age of like 8, 9, 10 years old of just playing around, right? And to your point earlier, that I think the biggest thing is just like this curiosity of playing around. Like you never know where something will turn out if you don't get started, like if you don't start somewhere. And so you may hate something, but you will never know you hate it until you try it. You never know you'll be good at something until you try it. Now, like for example, I was a sports junkie all growing up, played sports, but I realized pretty early on I wasn't going to make it very far. I'm pretty short in stature, and I just wasn't physically adept and gifted like a lot of my friends who ended up playing sports in college and whatnot. But I knew pretty early on that I'm like, I'm not going to make it very far. But I never would have known that until I tried, tried out for baseball, tried out for football, hated running. And I found that out because I tried out for soccer and realized, nope, this isn't for me. And in that same concept, you can apply that to design to where it's like, do you like photography? Like, do you have an eye for it? Do you have a natural inkling for it? Well, ask to borrow a camera or rent one or, get a really cheap one off of Marketplace where these tools are so much more accessible
Free
and
with your phone,
low. Your phone,
yeah.
every 15-year-old has an iPhone these days, right?
Yeah.
Or some sort of smartphone that has a camera. And so like just start exploring. And then the next thing is just like doing things for free, volunteering. I think that's a big one that a lot of people miss because there's this big culture on like making your bag and getting your bread and getting money and you're valuable and stuff like that. Listen, you're not valuable until you actually bring value in the business world. And what I mean by that is if you don't have something of value to offer yet, then the business world isn't going to see what you have to offer as valuable. So, but how do you bridge that gap, right? Like how do you bridge the gap of like starting from nothing, being a beginner, not knowing much, and then all of a sudden providing this immense value? Like how do you bridge that gap? And what I did was I just spent thousands of hours again just doing things late at night, like doing things for free. I was literally, for example, there's this one specific design category in photo manipulating, photo retouching, and it's called photo compositing. I was really interested in compositing, and what that is, it's the marrying of like two photos together and basically making them seamless into one environment. And I was just super curious about it. And I really just I'm like, you know what? I was working a full-time job, but then what I would do is I would stay late after work for hours just teaching myself. And what I would do is I would take a photo of myself in my office and then find some random background on the internet, download that photo, and then work for hours in trying to blend those two photos and teaching myself the skills. And that was little did I know how pivotal and important that one skill set would add to my life as a designer for the following like 6, 7 years from now. Because at a time when that wasn't important, like I really wasn't doing that particular design skill, I'm like, I'm really curious about this. I'm just going to spend my extra time in my day, not, going out and partying and stuff like that. Not that you can't enjoy life, but I was like, I'm going to commit myself to just teaching myself this one skill in the design industry niche, just that one little skill. And so I would spend hours and hours and hours on a day-to-day basis teaching myself. Next job I got required that skill. I ended up being the creative director for it was DC United. And you deal with a lot of player compositing where you take the image, like a cutout of a player, and you put them on different backgrounds. And I was thanking myself because I'm like, I am so glad I taught myself that skill because I'm literally applying it now. Now I'm still applying that skill. Like there's other facets and niches of the design jobs that you can have. One of them is like a retoucher, and that's your sole job. But you can do as little as much as you want in that. But like for me, I have that skill in my tool belt to where I can be an art director, a more comprehensive art director, and understand the do's and the don'ts of a compositor or a retoucher so then I can help be a more complete designer and a complete leader. But you'll never know those skills or those benefits if you don't just explore and just teach and do free work. The amount of free stuff that I've done, flyers, logo designs, websites, I've done so much. And I don't say that to brag. I say that to go, that's what's built me connections. That's what's grown my skills. That's how I've become the person I've been today. Not just going, well, if I'm not getting paid for it, I'm not going to do it. It's like, no, it's like, how do you add value if you only stick to what you're paid for? Because that limits you in what you learn and the opportunities. Because then someone might go, oh, I don't want to pay for you, so I'm not going to give you that opportunity. And then you miss out on maybe a future growth opportunity, a future job, a future relationship that might benefit your life. And so it's truly the immense value. I don't think I can communicate enough of exploring and just doing things for free.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean that's such a gem of a statement because yeah, most people, especially in today's world, right, on social media and everything, you're just seeing people with like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Oh, like I'm super successful, whatnot. But it's like you're not like so, even those people likely were doing free work
Yeah.
and creating opportunity, and that's how you create opportunities for yourself, right? Like is by
Yeah.
like just presenting. Like even for me in coaching, it's like I would rather be going through the motion and practicing with clients on free terms just to develop the skills, just to get the exposure, just to get the experience and go through the motion than say, oh, like I'm not working unless someone pays me for it, you know, because it's like otherwise I'm missing out on practice, I'm missing out on momentum, like I'm missing out on learning and just like improving my skills as a person. So that
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like yeah, beautiful statement. One thing I was gonna say too, I guess like even pivoting off of this is like so you started talking about different types of design, like different types of designs or like roles or responsibilities. If for people that are getting into this space, like just from your perspective, and if you're looking forward and like how this industry is moving, like what are some areas that you think are important for like someone that's coming into this space? I know this is kind of like a sideline question, but
All good. So I feel like there's kind of two ways to look at this. How I approach design is it's a tool, right? And the tool is only as good as the person using the tool. So if you know all the technical skills of how to masterfully use Photoshop and Illustrator, but yet you don't know how to communicate effectively to people, then really what's the point? Because then you have a skill that's not actually going to produce real results. And so how I look at this is when I was in college, we took marketing. I specifically got a marketing degree along with my design degree because I wanted to also understand what influences people. So there's this whole thing on color theory and how color influences people for different reactions. And there's a reason why a lot of fast food restaurants are red and yellows because it instigates certain emotions or feelings, whereas a lot of banks and corporations are the blues and the grays because they kind of instigate security and calmness. And there's a whole like psychology behind design that you really need to know as the base so that you understand why you do what you do. And meaning like the colors that you choose are elicit a specific reaction that you want that's based off of a particular goal or KPI. And how I look at it, or the generic saying that I like to say is, or think of is, design without strategy is just art. And what that means is art can be anything and everything. It can be, what you want. It can be what the person receives. It can be this, it can be that. I remember studying all these different art movements throughout history as part of my degree. And one of them was the Dada movement. And it was just like this anti-art movement. It was like against everything clean and structured and of the Swiss movement that was very structured and based off of grids and alignment. And these other people were like, screw that. We're going to turn a toilet upside down and call that art just because we can, to say like F you to the art world. And really it's all about emotion and this and that. But design is very separate. Design is the purpose of design is accomplishing a goal or a problem. And if your design solution does not solve that problem, then it is not effective and there is no point to it. So we as designers really need to think of ourselves as communicators first and foremost. And so how you communicate may look differently based off of the different design job that you have, or there be a retoucher or a production artist or a photographer or an animator or whatever. But in reality, as the baseline is, you are a communicator and you need to learn first and foremost how to communicate, not just verbally, but visually as well. Because what you're doing is you're taking the skills of design and the applications like Adobe applications or whatever you use, and you're just structuring the communication to influence someone. And so really there's a lot more strategy than you would think. So I say all that to go, I would encourage people, especially young designers, really learn what influences people first, how people operate, why they do what they do, and then you start to explore the different tools. So at that point, you're okay. Are you, do you like Photoshop more? Do you like magazine layouts? Do you like the photographies? Do you like retouching? And do you like production setup? There's all these different facets. Are you more of an illustrator? Like I have some design friends who are amazing illustrators. They're doing stuff literally for Dunkin' Donuts. They're creating all the little characters on the cups and the buckets. They just released this Halloween bucket that my friend did, and she is amazingly gifted. I am not an illustrator. That's not my strength, right? And so we have different facets, but we're both at the base, we're communicators visually. And so I'd first say, learn how to communicate first well, what makes people tick, and then start exploring at that point the different avenues that you might like. Do you find yourself drawing a lot, like character design? Well, that might lend yourself to being an illustrator. And you can do that for animation studios. You can do that for big corporations or private little in-house designers who like their brand is around illustration, right? I was not very much into illustrate. I painted and drew a lot, but not really character. So I knew I'm like, okay, that's not something I'm very good at. What I'm very good at is layout and structure and organization. And so I understand how to visually communicate something in blocks almost, and visually communicating different things or putting them together, photo compositing and stuff like that. And so I chose jobs that better suited those skill sets. So I would say the earlier on that you can discover your strengths and weaknesses from a creative standpoint, then the easier it becomes to choose kind of what field or what particular job to start pursuing. But again, back to the curiosity thing, you won't know until you start exploring, right? So I've explored photography, I've explored videography, I've explored animation, and kind of found, okay, what I like and what I don't like, what I'm good at and what I'm not. And then I tailor my jobs or job pursuits in what I know are my strengths. and then knowing what my weaknesses are. But you can't do that if you don't know. So the earlier on, the younger you are to explore those things, the easier it's going to make your decisions when trying to decide what specific degree to pursue. Do I do this? Do I do video, photo, animation, stuff like that? Kind of understand your strengths and weaknesses, up front. That'll help you.
Yeah, and I was like hearing with like the design, so it's like it's kind of like a balance between like building those design skills, but then also like building skills and maybe like marketing or psychology or like user experience, because like you have to like understand what people are going to be experiencing when you
Yeah.
present your work, or when you're creating this work, especially if you're doing it for corporations that are trying to create an experience for someone online, or getting them to feel a certain way about an ad campaign or a message that they're presenting. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. Well, yeah. So I'm gonna have to wrap it up pretty soon. But I did want to just have like one final question. I guess like for like that final question, like just what's something that you want to share with the people that are watching this video? It can be either how to get connected with you. It could be certain resources to look into. I'll be sure to like link anything that we want to link, at the bottom of this video. But yeah, what's something that you'd want to share with like this audience?
Something that's very impactful is knowing your why. And Simon Sinek did a great TED talk about it that I watched many, many, many years ago, and it really started this defining journey of understanding how to more effectively use my skills and my passions. And so if you can link to that video, it's just on YouTube, Simon Sinek, like Know Your Why.
Yeah,
It's a great resource for young people because it really goes into depth of explaining how to impactfully influence people, and understanding that people are more influenced by not what you do or what you provide, but why. And he gives an example of Apple, to where Microsoft or these other companies were just advertising their what. And what we mean by that is their product. Here's a computer. Here's this device. Here's this. You should buy it. It has this, and this benefit and resource and all of this data points. And people don't resonate with the amount of gigabytes and RAM a computer have, right? Like that's not going to influence their life, right? Maybe in some capacities, but from a broader perspective, that's not going to influence them. Whereas Apple, understanding that it's why people make decisions based off of the why. What they started doing was communicating, culture. They started advertising their campaigns in a way that wasn't about their product. It was about a lifestyle. It was about energy. I don't know if you remember the old iPod commercials with like the black silhouettes and the bright colors, and it was like the white lines, leading to the devices.
I'll have to watch them. I'll have to watch them.
They're a classic thing of going, they weren't advertising their product. They were advertising this feeling, this emotion, this thing that people wanted to attain to and to grasp emotionally. And so those campaigns launched Apple, into being like the number one company in the world, because they understood that people more interact or are influenced by emotions and their status, their symbols, what they enjoy in life, more than they do just products. And for example, the same thing happened with Nike, to where Nike was kind of struggling, and then they launched this Just Do It campaign, and it was so much more than just a shoe. It wasn't even about their products. It wasn't about their shoe. It was more about anyone can be an athlete. It doesn't matter your age, your gender, even your disability. It was more about anyone can get out and just be active. And oh, by the way, we have a shoe that can help you, right? And so
Yeah.
it was how you communicate, and then understanding what to communicate. in a way that better influences people. And that video by Simon Sinek does a really great job of describing the power of that, because then you can use your design skills in a better, more impactful way that actually has greater influence.
No, for sure. That's huge. I'll 100% have that clip or have that link below in this
Awesome.
video. Yeah, what an amazing conversation, by the way. I all the insight, like I don't know. It's like I look forward to rewatching this and just trying to find all the golden nuggets in this video just from the things you've said. I truly appreciate your time. It's, amazing conversation. And to be honest, like I could see us having future conversations. I'd love to maybe explore some of these topics a little bit further in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, just the insight that you're providing to people is massive. I think this conversation will definitely be impactful for a lot of people, whether it's now or in the future. But yeah, just I appreciate you for being you, and yeah,
Of course.
I hope everybody that watched is enjoying, and we'll be sure to add all the links and all that other stuff below. But yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
First,
have a
I
good
do
one.
want to say I appreciate the time, but then also just your desire to create a platform for younger people to be helped really with these dialogues, these topics, these conversations. I really think that in today's age of accessibility of knowledge, I think it's super important, and it can greatly help people that are maybe struggling with deciding what they should do or even how to tackle a problem in whatever industry. So I appreciate you having me on, and thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, it was a pleasure, and yeah, I hope everyone has a good rest of your week, and yeah, thank you. Have a good one.